Right.
Okay, so without further ado, it's Olympia time. We got the Sandow here.
Oh boy, where'd you get that?
This was we bought it off of Muscle Mag, your old publishing entity that you were part of in terms of being a contributor. We bought the one of the Sandows, about 3 Sandows that they had that Robert Kennedy had in his estate. So we ended up buying those 3. So. And Ben Pekulski ended up buying one off of us, and I have one, and my business partner, Dominic Morrow, has one. So kind of a cool nostalgia, but I figured with the Olympia here, then we have to obviously do it right with the Sandow.
Right on, yeah. Did
It's
that
a
actually
statue
belong?
replica. Not real,
Oh, it's a replica. Okay, I was going to say.
Yeah.
I hope
Okay,
maybe
so
Mr.
I'm just going to go over things here now. Obviously, this is our Olympia predictions show. Thank you very much for obviously joining us. And you know what, Ron? I mean, I've been following your career from when you were a journalist just with Muscle Mag. That's where I was. You used to pump out so much content. You and Will Brink back in the day, and Greg Zulak and some of those guys. But how many Olympias have you been to now?
My first one was in '91, and I haven't been to all of them. I probably missed, I'd say, 6 to 8 years in that span of time from 1991 to now. So it's about, I've been to over 20, put it that way, between 20 and 25, somewhere in that area.
Incredible. And I mean, since 1998, the show has been in Las Vegas. In New York City, it was there in 98. Then it moved in 99 to Las Vegas. And this is the first time it's been back to Orlando, which I think it was there in 93, I think it was.
91, that was my first
91,
Olympia.
okay.
Because that was my first Olympia. I'll never forget it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, anyways, let's get over into its storylines here. Obviously, there's been a lot of people that, due to COVID-19, have dropped out of the show. Obviously, this has been disappointing to fans. I think the most recent one that was a real setback was Rolly Winkler in Istanbul, Turkey, getting a COVID-19 a positive test. Have you heard anything on that storyline?
No, it's just a big disappointment because Rolly was someone I and so many other people were looking forward to seeing. He was, when he was 3rd place here in 2018, or not here, but at the Olympia, you know, some people thought he was good enough to win that year. That's the best I'd ever seen him. When Rolly is on 100%, he's a sight to see. He's one of the best in the world. He's one of the few with that 3D look that Phil has. Brandon has it now, but not many people have that, the real round, full, hanging muscles like that. Yeah.
Yeah, huge disappointment. I think he was going to be a strong finisher. We've got some other storylines here. Obviously, Dexter Jackson, at 51 years of age, going into the Olympia here. I mean, that's just tells something that with obviously the diet, the training, supplementation, that you can kind of keep on going. And this will be his last Olympia show, unfortunately, ever.
Yeah, but 20, I believe, someone tried to say it was his 21st. I believe it's his 20th Olympia because he did miss 1 year for some reason. But that's what a career. I mean, 29 pro wins, an Olympia, 5 Arnold Classics. And, you know, people keep bringing up Albert Beckles, and Albert was a great bodybuilder for sure. He was winning shows supposedly at the age of 60 plus. There was always some debate as to his real age, I think, Albert Beckles.
Yeah.
But, you know, Dexter, you can't take anything. Dexter has accomplished so much. And to be 51 years old and still competing and still being talked about as being top 5 in the world, you know, he's a favorite for the top 5 at this show. That's astounding for a man that turned pro in 1999 or 98. I'm sorry, 98 he turned pro.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is his home state, obviously, so this would be just phenomenal. The other one that Dan Sullivan and I were talking about was that he won the Masters Olympia in South Florida in Miami, I think 2014. So definitely. And didn't he win that Olympia they did in Germany?
I believe so. The Olympia Europe.
Yeah.
I lose track of, you know, they have the Arnold Classic. They have the Arnold in different places all the time. That's been going on for a while. But for a few years, they were doing Olympias. They would have the main Olympia, and then they would have the Mr. Olympia Europe. I think that's the only one they would have. I don't believe they ever try to expand it into like Asia and other places. But yeah, I mean, Dexter's track record, no one's gonna beat that. they'd have to live to be 100 years old to beat Dexter's record. I'm impressed because I turned 51 a couple months before Dexter, and I don't know how his body's held up. I don't, because to compete at that level, you know, you got to give him credit for being very smart with his training too. He's never had a major injury. Who can we say that about? A 51-year-old bodybuilder? Nobody. We're all banged up.
Absolutely. Just continue to make continuous gains on it, and that's one of the things. Watching him train in Gold's Venice with Charles Glass, and just seeing the level of the amount of machines that he uses and how he'll tweak certain angles or postures during movements that they feel a slight irritation in an elbow or a wrist. And I think that once you get to a certain level in the 40s plus, you're going to have to rely more on machines and things like that and easing it up a bit if you have any intentions of prolonging your career the way Dexter and Sean Roden and people like that have in their 40s.
Yeah, and you know, I got to say this because I know there's a lot of younger viewers, and they kind of get upset when they see someone like Dexter using machines. They get irritated, they get angry, saying, "Why isn't he squatting 600 pounds? Why isn't he benching 500 pounds? If he looks like that, he should be doing all this." You know, but you guys, if you keep doing this long enough, you will understand eventually why you're going to have to back off the heavy barbells and dumbbells at some point and turn more to machines because, you know, the connective tissues, the muscles get bigger and bigger and bigger, but the joints, the tendons, they don't have that same capacity. So training smart like Dexter has, he's a role model, I think, for anyone that wants longevity in the sport, because we've all seen these guys burn out so fast, training like power lifters, tearing pecs, tearing biceps, tearing quads. And yeah, for Dexter to be 51 years old and never have had a major muscle tear or shoulder injury, nothing like a lower back injury, it's incredible. So my hat's off to him if I had a hat.
Awesome. Okay, the biggest storyline here is obviously the return of Phil Heath.
Yeah.
So this is a huge storyline, obviously, but that's 2 years off of the Olympia stage. And what are you hearing out there in the industry in terms of his conditioning? Because everybody wants to know, is that stomach distension, the bubble gut, and all the things he's been accused of, is that under control this year? I mean, he had surgery, I think 2018, that sort of set him back, peaking where he was defeated by Sean Roden. He wasn't 100%. What are you hearing out there?
I mean, I spoke to him. I'm going to give a shameless plug here. I was lucky enough to get the only interview with Phil before the Olympia. You know, he might do one like tomorrow with somebody or something, but I did it over a week ago on the Muscular Development Channel. And, you know, I said to him, just to sort of lead him on and get him to answer my question, I don't think he would come back. Knowing Phil, as competitive as he is, as much of a perfectionist as he is, and especially knowing how much negative attention and commentary he got in 2018 from that extended abdomen that he had, he would not come back. And he agreed. There's no way he would come back if that was still an issue. And about a month before that, I talked to his coach, Hani Rambod. It was 2 weeks before that. And he, you know, I asked him the same thing. I said, I know you're not going to show me a picture of Phil's midsection, but answer me this. Would you prep him for this Olympia if he couldn't be at his best or very close to it, and the midsection not be an issue anymore? And he said, he agreed. He said, there's no way he would have even agreed to coach, to prep Phil for this show if that was still going to be an issue, because why go back when they both know the minute he comes out, everyone's going to be zeroed in like a bullseye right on that midsection. They're going to be scrutinizing from every angle, no matter where he's standing on the stage, what angle he's at, what pose, midsection. So he has no choice. And, you know, I don't like to make predictions because I think Brandon's going to look phenomenal. We've only seen that one picture that Brandon's posted. That it's a quarter turn from the side in a very, looks like a hotel room, not sure, but man, he's improved a lot too. I really think it's going to be a battle. I don't want to make it seem like a two-man show because that seems sort of disrespectful to all these other guys who are These are the best. These are the best athletes, the best bodybuilders in the world. But Phil Heath, he's won this 7 times. He's beaten guys like Rowley. He's beaten Jay Cutler, Dexter Jackson. He's beaten everybody on that that's going to be on that stage this year, except for a couple of new guys and Hadi, because Hadi's first Olympia was last year. But I, as far as condition, Phil's never been off, never. That issue with his abdomen, it wasn't condition, because you saw he posted pictures and we saw all the pictures, but he posted specific shots of like the glutes, the hams, parts of his back, shots where you could see areas that most people don't have that real dry, grainy, polished condition. He had it.
Yeah.
Even in 2018 when his midsection unfortunately was not cooperating with him.
Yeah. No, it definitely, I mean, Brandon Curry, though, I mean, this guy with the Camel Crew, he's over there, and he's just been continually pushing and pushing and pushing his size. And I think he's surprised a lot of people. I mean, much like Sean Roden, people didn't expect Brandon to win the Olympia. I mean, so it was really great that that happened. I think it made the sport exciting for me anyways, just that it wasn't so predictable. But for Phil to tie Ronnie Coleman and Lee Haney's record at 8, this is going to be a huge accomplishment if he can do it. But if Brandon Curry, I mean, the Camel Crew and that group is going to put everything they can into this. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. But you're right. I have never seen Phil Heath out of shape. And that's tough to say. You know, we've seen Brandon a little bit harder, a little bit better at certain shows. I think at the Arnold 2018, I think it was 19, he was phenomenal. And then I think in the Olympia last year, he was better. He was good, but maybe not quite as good. I mean, debatable, right?
No, he was definitely up because I was at both shows, and he was definitely sharper at the Arnold last year than he was at the Olympia. It was still good enough to win. He was still defeated everyone that was coming at him last year. We were missing a few people. You know, that's why this is a more exciting year, because last year we were missing Phil. Obviously, we were missing Rami. He didn't compete last year, and those are two of the very best in the world. So I think Brandon's eager to show people he's not a one and done. He's not a one-hit wonder. He's not a fluke. He wants to show people. He wants to beat Phil Heath, because that was sort of not an asterisk, but when he won last year, a lot of people were muttering under their breath, yeah, but Phil wasn't. You didn't beat Phil. Phil wasn't in the show. So he wants to beat Phil to show he really is the best in the world. So I expect I know he's put on size. I've seen, you can tell he's fuller. He's bigger than he's ever been. Haven't seen the legs. You know, his legs are not weak by any means, but Phil's legs are pretty damn incredible. They're astonishing. So it's going to be a battle. And then, you know, you can keep going down the line. There's a few more guys here who are no joke at all.
Hadi Chupin, obviously Hanny Rambod's other client. So he's prepping people that could crack the top 3. We've got him right now pegged for 3rd place. Where are you thinking Chupin's going to land?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see him and Bonac next to each other, because Bonac lost to him last year, but Bonac wasn't at his very best. I'm sorry. No, right. Bonac beat him last year, I should say. But I think Bonac's I like the way Bonac looked at this Arnold Classic when he won back in March, better than he looked at the last Olympia. I think he had some sort of injury with a knee or something. He was just bringing one of his legs back up to full size. It's going to be interesting. Personally, Bonac has a much prettier physique. It's got a much better shape and flow to it. But Hadi's just he's built like a brick shithouse. Good Lord. So much dense muscle. Condition is so grainy. Separation. It's a very rugged, impressive. It's like a mini Dorian-esque type of physique. Branch Warren, it's in that vein of physiques. The Branch Warren, the Dorian Yates, the Jose Raymond, just so much dense, thick muscle stacked onto the frame.
I like Hadi's ability to display the physique. A lot of people don't realize that it's a posing contest.
Yeah.
Each of the poses hitting against it. And just looking at Hadi, his muscle control, his transitions, it's like he's continuously, in the compulsories, it's like he's doing a posing routine. And we watched him in Vancouver Pro Show, which was the closest he had been in 2019 to getting on U.S. soil. And just to see him hit every single pose and control his lower back, his calves, he just digs his feet into the stage. And it's unbelievable. And he hits, like he'll crunch down hitting an ab pose in a lat spread. You know, he'll do vacuums.
Yeah. on your Instagram page, you posted, I think your most recent post was some of his posing from last year's Olympia. Am I right?
I believe that's right, yes.
Yeah, and, you know, one thing that he does that I wish more of these guys would do is make the pose more dramatic by he sort of winds into it, and then it goes. It's like a wind up, and then boom, he hits the pose, and everything just pops right there and then. Whereas these other guys, they just sort of go into the pose. Not all of them, but it catches the eye when something you're like waiting. You have an anticipation, and then the muscle. He's got this ability, and then boom, expand, and it's just he grows in front of your eyes as he poses. That's a skill. That's a lot of practice.
But he holds it. He doesn't just assume the judge's eye was at him at that particular moment. He holds it for a couple of seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he holds his poses for a couple seconds, which is great. Okay, we got Dexter Jackson. Big Rami now. Obviously, Chad Nichols is helping him. I see Dennis James is helping him. He seems to have a lot of these things going. He got to Florida early, which was smart, much smarter than Rolly Winkler had done. But I seem like listening to RX Muscle, it seems like maybe there's some desperation there when you have these guys locking him down. It just seems like 2 cardio sessions a day, high reps for weights. Usually that's a sign that they're trying to catch up. What is your take out there? Because I think you I'm sorry, I was mistaking you for Sean Ray for a second. I was like, I saw you in a picture with him, but no, it was Sean Ray. So my apologies.
No worries. Rami's condition, I don't want to say it's been an issue because it's not like he's been out of shape, but he's one of those guys that I've always wanted to see him just a little bit tighter, a little bit more detailed. And, that's so many people have said over the years, because he's been, I think this is the 6th or 7th time he's done the Olympia now. If he could just bring that, if he had that size and shape, which he does, along with that really crisp detail like somebody like a Phil Heath brings, I don't know if anybody would be able to beat him. But I've yet to see that, and I want to see it. As far as him being behind, I think this time a lot of the U.S.-based athletes are at a real advantage because they didn't have to quarantine anywhere. They didn't have to go to any far-flung countries to be able to fly from there into the U.S. So we have guys that are dealing with trying to lose water from, Hadi Chupan just came in from United Arab Emirates yesterday. That had to be like, I don't know, 16, 20 hours of flying. So he's got a deal. I'm sure Hani's going to dial him in and get rid of all the water or whatever. But, Rami, man, I'd love to see Rami bring that look, that really crisp, dry, grainy, detailed look. Because what a physique. We've never seen that kind of muscle since Ronnie and Nasser, maybe Marcus Rule. Nobody's carried that much muscle, and he's got good shape. He's got a small waist. He's really not missing anything. Like a lot of people that could use bigger calves, but it's not a calf contest. It's a bodybuilding contest. I'm curious to see if Chad can bring him in tighter than the Arnold. He looked really good at the Arnold, but man, if he was a little bit tighter than that, he's going to be dangerous, really dangerous. I'd put probably third.
He's got all the size, but I just don't know about the aesthetics because these other guys have the total package. Yeah. And you put him beside a Bonac. Dexter beat Rami already. I mean, it's really tough to beat by the way they judge the judging, the way the scoring system is. That Rami can be just, I don't know, with all that mass, I just don't know if he can match the aesthetics of a Phil Heath or a Brendan Curry. Because it's not the biggest guy. I mean, you know it and I know it that the biggest guy doesn't necessarily win a bodybuilding contest. But let's go over to that. I mean, there's another new sensation with Hunter Labrada. 2008, he turns pro at the NBC Nationals, which would have been November, about 2 years ago now. And then he won the Tampa this last summer in August. Won that. That would have been his pro debut. Yeah. And then here he is on the Olympia stage now. So he's never been beat from the Nationals to his first pro show. Now, this is he's an X factor. The photos that we've both seen with the quarter turns beside Dorian Yates and some of these different things, we're expecting a lot. But do you think we're going to see much more in person on stage than we see on Instagram? Or are we going to see something quite similar to what we see on Instagram?
I think he'll be very similar. I think he'll made some improvements since August. It's not a lot of time, but when I spoke to him, we did an interview about 2 weeks ago, and he's really getting back to proper training. Not everyone knows he had a shoulder surgery last year. So since his Nationals win, a lot of people assume he had all that time for an off season. He didn't really. He had a severe shoulder injury. He had that operated on. He had to wait for that to heal up, then rehab. So his training is going better now than it's been in a very long time. So I do expect him to be a little bit better than he was in Tampa. With the absence of a few guys, that gives him the opportunity to move up too. I really wouldn't be surprised if he's somewhere in the 6th to 8th spot, which would be that'd be a great debut. People ask. I think it's a lot when people make predictions like, well, maybe he'll be top 5, he'll be top 3. That's a lot to ask when you've got. Look at these names. Look at how established these guys are and how good they are. Curry, Heath, Bonac, Chupon, Dexter. I mean, come on, Romney. For him to get past all those guys would be, I don't want to say impossible, but it'd be crazy if he could. I'm very anxious to see him, and I think he's going to do well. How well, we'll see.
Yeah, we've got him pegged for 6th. I think that would be great if he can do that. But I think Steve Kuklo is going to be one to watch as well. He's got that. Oh, is Kuklo out?
He was never in.
Oh my God, what an idiot I am. I feel like a moron on this one. Sorry about that. I have it written down on these notes just because we assumed that he was always in the Olympia, but my mistakes there. Thanks. That's why we have Ron Harris to make this interview more legit.
Oh, I believe me, Scott. If that was like, if I made mistakes like that were only that minor, I'd be very happy. I've made some terrible mistakes with these things. But anyway, let's move on.
Yep. Okay, so we've got some Canadians in there. Ian Belliere, Ottawa boy, the brother-in-law of Chris Bumstead, brought a ton of mass, won the New York Pro this year. Ryan's a Subdorian in terms of his size. Obviously, there's a different era that we're in now than we were then. But that rugged mass that's there, we're thinking he's probably the frontliner from Canada in the open class. Obviously, there's a couple of other guys in it with Antoine Vallier and Regan Grimes. Obviously, a huge social media following, really popular young guy. What are your take on those 3 Canadians that are going to be representing us here at the Olympia stage?
Well, I like them all, so I don't want anyone to get mad. I can't let that stop me from speaking my mind. I liked Antoine's look. When I saw him at New York Pro, he needed to be a lot sharper. And then, his coach, Dorian Hamilton, they pulled a rabbit out of the hat because 1 week later on stage in Las Vegas for the Cali Pro, the condition was so much better. He was peeled. If he brings that look again, which I don't see why he wouldn't, out of those 3, I'd probably put him the highest. Nothing against Ian's got raw mass. He does remind me of that real rugged Dorian type of physique. And Patrick Torres, coach, seems to really figured out a good way to bring him in with that balance, the fullness and the condition, the dryness, which it's not easy for these big guys to dial it in. I like Antoine's physique. I like them both. And Regan, my God, Regan has a beautiful physique. Yeah. They're all good. You guys are representing very, very well this year. Is this the first time, you correct me on this, is this the first time we've had 3 Canadians in the Mr. Olympia? It's got to be.
You know what? I'd have to go back and check the record books on it. I don't remember in recent years in the men's open there being that many. So you could be right on that. But, I mean, back in the 80s, there were some few guys, Roy Callender and a few of these guys that sometimes it escapes me on it. But I can't remember in recent years too many of the Canadians being that many in the open. Looking back to the days with Nimrod King, Henderson Thorne, I mean, it is possible Steve Brisbois, those guys may have been around that time in there. But I'd have to go back to check to see the record books.
Well, this time they're all under the age of 30, all 3 of them. Oh wait, no, Antoine's actually over 30. I take it back, but I think Ian's younger, isn't he? Ian's only like 29.
I don't know.
I know Regan's young. Regan's only like 27, I think.
Yeah.
They're all fairly young guys. So yeah, I mean, it's man, if I had to put those three guys, place them 1 and 3, I'd have a tough time. You know, it's Regan. I still haven't seen Regan bring the 100% condition that I know he's capable of. He's still figuring all that out. He's a work in progress. That I call him a kid because he's so young. He's gonna go far. We're just seeing his potential starting to show now. He just won first pro show in Romania a couple weeks back.
That's right.
And man, just beautiful shape. You know, he did classic that one year, 2018, and I hated him in classic because I knew he was sacrificing a lot of muscle mass to do it. So I'm glad he got right the hell out of that division. It wasn't for him, but he does have that type of physique, that classic bodybuilding shape from the old school days with the small waist, the real round, full muscle bellies. It's a hell of a physique. I mean, they're all impressive. Antoine in particular, man, the legs Antoine's got some of the best legs in the sport right now. Yeah. And I think it's because he tore his bicep.
His calves were like 20-inch calves. He had some of the best legs. And then he just continues to refine them. And he's such an entertaining guy to watch, the videos he does. And he gets it. He's overcome some addiction problems that he's had, and he's been very open about that. I know Muscular Development, you guys used to sponsor him and do a lot of work with him when he was with Universal Animal. And no, it's just been great. I think he was on a cover of Muscular Development years ago as well. But no, he's just been a great ambassador to the sport, and I think that the fans really connect with his transparency. And Regan Grimes as well. His life is an open book through Instagram and YouTube and all the different things, and that's really changed. But let's go back now. Any dark horses aside from the people we've mentioned for the bodybuilding open class?
I'll just run down the names we haven't talked about. Juan Morel. I know Juan's going to look really good. You know, it's a tough show. That's why when we're talking about some guys who are going to be fighting to be in the top 10, and it's no knock on them. This is, you know, it's like if you're the 10th fastest runner in the world, that's pretty damn great. That means there's only 9 men in a planet of 8 billion people that can run faster than you. So, you know, we're down to, I think there's only 15 guys in the open now. I think we're down to 15. So these are the 15 best built open bodybuilders alive. So we got guys like the South Korean guy that won the show, and he won that show that they had in Korea that Samson Dauda was like locked up in his hotel room trying to compete in. Lee Sung Chul. He's actually really good. I'm interested to see him in person. Lucas Laslado from Czech Republic always brings great condition. Very entertaining poser.
Mr. Glutes.
He does that roll with his glutes. It's crazy. You got Akim Williams, huge guy, great shape. Max Charles, another one that's, you know, wow, just so much muscle, so much grainy density. Max looked amazing at the Arnold Classic this year. If he could bring that look again, man, people would freak out. Justin Rodriguez, another good one. And that's it. I mean, yeah, Open Olympia. It's I wish we hadn't lost all the people we lost due to injuries and other situations like COVID, but it's still a hell of a lineup. It's going to be a great show.
Akeem Williams is one of those guys where I've just never realized, I never understood why he just can't bring it together on Showtime. I don't know if it's just he's got that, he's just too thick. He doesn't have his waist smaller. He just has this so much muscle, but I just don't understand why he isn't able to place higher. And I don't think it's politics at all. I'm saying that there just seems to be when he gets to stage time and he stands beside a beautiful physique like a Dexter, he gets missed in the pack. He seems to always be that B tier with a Juan Morel.
Yeah, I mean, he got 10th place here last year. He's actually figured out his conditioning really well over the past couple of years versus years past. I still see areas on him, his back in particular. I never see it as dry in details as the rest of his body, and I don't know. We've talked about it. He thinks he's trying new training strategies with his coach, Oscar Ardone. I don't know why his back just doesn't have that same level of condition. Because, man, certain poses of his are just freaky. He's one of the few guys who can do that, the Sergio Oliva pose, and look really good in it. You know, you have to have a hell of a V-taper, hell of a lat pop from the front, and giant arms to pull that pose off. He's one of the few.
Yeah. Okay, now men's classic physique, I'm only wanting to skip over the 212 for a second, just so we can touch a little bit about it, because the main storyline we're talking about is the Chris Bumstead against Breon Ansley. And I mean, looking at the two, Bumstead's 25 and Ansley's 41.
Yeah.
And Ansley was a 212 competitor who came down for classic, so he has that muscle size per square inch of height. He's obviously a lot more muscle, much more muscle maturity being 41. He's got that dry, grainy side to him. But when Bumstead took the crown last year, it kind of redefined the category as to what does the classic body type look like versus what the 212 class looked like. And I really think that there's got to be a real separation between what 212 is and men's classic is, now that that's real, you know, catching on. And I really think that Bumstead is the man to beat. And this year, going into this, he isn't overcoming the problems he had in the past. I think he had a hernia problem, and he ended up in the hospital and wasn't quite his best in 2018. 2019, he came back, and now we're looking at 2020, where he's had full time to be able to obviously prep. Now, with COVID lockdowns, gym closures, right? He and Ian Valier have built their own gyms, I guess some kind of home gym that they've created, a dungeon. And that hasn't really stopped him from training. But what are you hearing out there in terms of the men's classic physique battle?
Man, you know, unfortunately, I didn't get to talk to Chris. He's a hard guy to get a hold of, but especially close to showtime, he's very focused on. But Breon wants that title back badly, and he's. Another thing about Breon is I think he's going back to 212. I think this is. If he wins again, he'll stay in classic, and I think he's got a really good chance of getting his title back and winning. If for any reason he does not win, I think we're never going to see him in classic again. I think he wants to grow. He made gains this year or since last year, and he's in a position where he has to diet away some of that muscle that he gained to get down to 180 pounds. And you know, nobody likes to lose muscle that you work so hard to get, and especially being 41 years old and having brand new muscle mass. That's almost unheard of. But, man, you know, I like both of their physiques. They're apples and oranges. They're so different. You know, we talk about did Chris's win set a new standard for the ideals of classic physique? Is this what they're looking for now? Do you need to be tall? Do you need to have wide clavicles? You know, I don't know. People try to make these trends up based on one show, and I don't know if that's the case. And it's not so different from politics. People will say that decision was politics. It's very rare. I've very rarely seen politics play any factor in these shows. It's the best physique there, and you have a panel of judges. It's subjective opinions. They're basing their decisions off their preferences, the ideals of what each division is supposed to be. It's an imperfect science. I would hate to be a judge and have to pick between Bumstead and Breon. I think they're very, very different physiques, and they're both classic in their own way. There's no one classic physique. There are different classic physiques, I feel. Yeah.
I mean, the one thing, though, is that the way the judging system is set up with the IFBB Pro League owning their own the amateur stream that feeds into the pro stream, now the ideal physique for the amateur stream is the current reigning Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
So that's how the judging happens now with the amateur stream. Now, when it switches with a champion like Bumstead becoming the champion, that becomes the standardization of the look that the IFBB Pro League is looking for. And obviously there was a very big change because Breon had a very different physique. He had an aesthetic 212 kind of look to him. And in my opinion, almost like a Keon Pearson, a very similar physique. But now that you have Bumstead with that look, the longer arms, the obviously small waist, not quite overdeveloped quads, not quite as shredded and grainy as obviously Breon. But I think that it's going to be interesting to see if the judging sticks with the standardization of what Bumstead looks like, because Bumstead has more of an Arnold physique.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of that classic look, than he does a modern day bodybuilding look that you'd sort of get with Breon. I think Breon is a flawless physique if you looked at his height and the amount of muscle he's able to pack. But I just think that the different body type and look that is purely genetic. Obviously, there's training involved, but I don't think you can just become built like Bumstead without the genetics that Bumstead has for that type of body that he has.
Yeah, you know, if he wins again, if Bumstead wins again, I also expect there's two other men in this lineup with the physique in that vein, the Arnold era type of look. Wesley Vissers from Netherlands, he's 6'2", very Arnold-esque in a lot of poses, very similar look to Arnold with the big full chest and the peak biceps and all that. And the American guy from Texas, Logan Franklin, who just won New York Pro a couple months ago. Also that type of physique, tall, wide clavicles, not overdeveloped quads. You know, we'll see. It's interesting. If Bumstead wins again, then we'll see that will establish a pattern, and we'll be able to say with a little bit more definitiveness that this is the look that they're saying represents the ideal for classic physique. Because it's only this division. We got to remember, this is only 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. This is the 5th year of the division, which is still, you know, compared to Open Olympia has been there since 1965. So it's still a very young division, still growing. In many ways.
You know what? Logan Franklin, we had him actually on our cover twice. Phenomenal physique, great aesthetics to it, some good size. I believe he has a military background.
Yes.
Really cool story, very dedicated, very commercialized look to him. So I definitely think there's some great competition. I had actually forgot that he's in this lineup as well. That's going to be exciting to see him.
And two guys we have to mention, just if we don't, we're being remiss. You got Terence Ruffin, who was 2nd place this year at the Arnold Classic, and the Arnold Classic winner this year was Alex Cumbernero. They're both phenomenal. They're both in their own right. Alex is interesting because he was a 212 champ. He had 5 or 6 wins as a 212 before switching to Classic, and he's had a few Classic wins now. So it just goes to show you. And his physique looks he hasn't revamped his physique or anything like that. He always had very, very nice shape and aesthetics, even as a 212. He just wasn't as massive and thick as some of these 212 guys are. But I think they're going to be up in that first call-up for sure, both of those men.
And Danny Yunin, I think this is his 3rd appearance at the Olympia.
Yeah.
He was 7th in 2018. 6th in 18, 7th in 19.
Yeah.
So definitely. Okay, so now that concludes that part of it. Now, obviously, let's go to the class that is where the mass is, the 212.
Yeah. Interesting to see Kamal El-Garni defend his title. He's 40, just turned 49. He's been around forever. He's only done a few IFBB Pro League shows because he spent most of his career as a sponsored athlete representing, I think it was United Arab Emirates? No, Qatar. He was on Team Qatar, and he made a ton of money. I just did a feature on him based on an interview that we did for Muscular Development YouTube channel, and people wonder why these amateurs in the Middle East don't turn pro. Why do they keep their amateur status? He was making more money than there's maybe 2, 3, 4 guys in the whole sport right now who are making the kind of money that he was making as an amateur from winning shows for Team Qatar all those years. But man, I'm interested to see the rematch between him and Lunsford, because Lunsford last year, I caught a lot of heat for saying I liked Lunsford to win last year for the win because Kamal killed him on condition, killed him, and I'm not disputing that for a minute. Kamal has so much muscle maturity, so much detail, so much deep, crisp separation between the muscles. It's an incredible physique. But Lunsford, I like Lunsford for the raw mass and the shape. I just think he's coming into his own. I don't know much longer he's going to be a 212. I think he's going to outgrow the class. But in the meantime, man, Derek packs a lot of muscle in it. I love his shape. I think certain poses like his front double bicep, they're almost flawless. Could use a little bit more sweep in the quads. I think he's been working hard on that. So it's going to come down. I think the top 3 is probably going to be maybe not the same order, but I think it's going to come down the same 3 guys. Last year was Kamal, Derek, and Sean Clarita. And, unless somebody down this list, like an Angel Calderon Frias, who's coming up strong, or Dave Henry, the past champ, or Ahmad Ashkenani, John Jewett.
Ahmad Ashkenani is one of the guys we have as third or fourth.
He's very consistent. The worst he's done is fifth last year. He was second place at his first two Olympias, moved down to fourth and then fifth. So people would say, well, he's dropping down, but it's not always the case. Sometimes people have off days, off years. He's definitely somebody to watch, Ahmad. You can't write that guy off. I mean, he's not really missing too much. I'd like to see a lot more quad sweep on him. But other than that, man, what a back on that guy. The shoulders, the back, the arms. So much muscle on such a small frame. It reminds me in some ways of the late Momo Benaziza. Similar type of muscle density and thickness.
Now, speaking of backs, what about the Bull? George the Bull Peterson. One of the best backs in the show by far. New York City boy. Switched over into this class this year. Did really, really well in the 212. What are you seeing here on the Bull?
Definitely top 5. I don't see him doing worse than that. I'm going to say he has the best back in bodybuilding right now of all divisions.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, who has a better back? Who? Maybe Phil Heath? That's the only guy I can really say.
Joel Stubbs!
Joel Stubbs, yeah, there you go. But in the show this year, I don't think anyone has a better back. It's not a back contest, but he's got such a unique look to him. Nobody has a physique that looks anything like – he's one of those guys, they say in the old days of bodybuilding, you could see a guy walking half a mile down the beach. You knew who he was. But these guys now, they all look the same. If you saw the silhouettes, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't be able to pick them apart. Not the case with George Peterson. He's got a very, very unique look to him. Tiny little waist, super wide upper back and shoulders. Man, it's a hell of physique. It's a fresh. The muscles look fresh. Nothing torn. Everything looks really popping on this guy. I know. I was at the show. He won the Tampa as his first time as his 212. He wasn't quite 100% as he normally would be at the when he was doing Classic, because the difference in weight was 192 for Classic versus he was right around 210 or 211 for Tampa. And he's got a great coach, Justin. What's Justin's last name? Jeez, Justin Miller. And I think he's going to bring him in 100% for this. Top five. I can't see him any lower than that. But as far as pushing for win, I don't know. We've never seen him next to these guys. It wasn't a terrible lineup at the Tampa show, but it wasn't a lineup like this.
Yeah.
So that goes for any of these guys that we've never really seen next to the big names. Sometimes they really impress you because once you see them next to these guys, you see they actually do compare very well. So we'll see. We'll see how George compares to Kamal, Derek, Clarita, John Jewett, Ahmad. These guys are no joke. But the Bull, he'll be right up there.
Hey, one of the things that, being a fan of the sport, I've always been a fan of Muscular Development. I think that Muscular Development magazine is the last standing bodybuilding print magazine in the industry. And obviously the digital that you guys do is just tremendous. You guys are the benchmark that everybody looks to in terms of the interviews that you do, podcasts that you do. You've got a whole network with MD Latino that you do. And I've not met anybody who's as passionate as Steve Blackman. It's just, he's another, him and Jake Wood, Joe Weider, all these guys, Bob Kennedy, John Balick, really passionate publishers. It's just incredible that you guys, MD, has just done such a great job. And you are obviously instrumental to all the contest coverage that consumers see. They just sort of see it online. They don't really know. They see the photo or whatever. But you've just been covering the game for so long, and it just says something about Steve Blackman's commitment to the industry by having you guys go. With COVID shutting down, were you at every pro show in the United States that took place this year?
Not every pro show. If it had open bodybuilding, we were in it. A lot of the shows didn't have open bodybuilding. It just had maybe Classic and Bikini and a couple other divisions. But I haven't been to as many shows this year. First I got to go back and I got to give credits to the team because I'm the face that they see, but they don't see all the people behind the scenes. We got and a guy that's normally with me at these shows, Giles Tiger Thomas in the UK. He's being very, very sorely missed. He's my coverage partner at the at the Arnold and Olympia. Always those two shows, and I'm really missing him. He's doing a great job with his own shows over there. He's producing for us, MD Global Muscle, and he started a show with two women, pros called Buff Bombshells.
I watched it actually today. They did a great job
great
going over the female side of this show. They had some really good, and I liked how they, during a live, they pulled up a lot of the footage of the girls during the interview. I was like really impressed with the production quality that were there. And there's always something for us North Americans. You hear a British accent and it has this authority side to it. You're like, oh yeah, they really know their stuff.
It's classy. You know, Giles has done a job this year, a great job this year, because I think it was actually last year. I think he built that studio last year in his house. Prior to that, he was driving a couple hours to some other studio, but now he has a studio in his home. That's where he produces all the content, and you know, he's carrying on the torch of great British bodybuilding journalism. That was, you know, the king, the man we all bow down to is Peter McGuff, who's very ill. He's in our prayers right now, but you know, Giles is taking that responsibility of carrying that journalism and the passion for the sport into the next generation, and that's important because, you know, we have a lot of YouTubers and stuff now, and that's the world's change. You have to adapt or perish. But to see somebody like himself that's been around, Giles has been working in the sport since he was 16 or 17. He started off as a photographer. But going back to Steve Bleckman, you know, very few, I wouldn't want to say nobody, but I've never met many people that can rival his passion for the sport. He is a super fan of the sport. You know, there are many opportunities he could have gotten rid of the magazine or just moved on, done something else, because he's brilliant with the supplement industry. He and his brothers they owned Twin Planet while it was probably the greatest supplement company in the world for quite a while there. But he's the leader. He's the boss man behind the scenes, and he takes an active interest. He's not one of those delinquent bosses that just sort of checks in every now and then. He's very, very much hands-on, very much hands-on.
Yeah, I talked to him at the Arnolds for a long time, and I just couldn't believe how sharp he was and how much he had done that I didn't know. You know, in terms of pioneering the use of sports nutrition supplements, pioneering, obviously, contest coverage with what you guys have did with the whole play-by-play, the card swapping, live contest coverage at events, at amateur shows. We actually took a lot of the systems that you guys had been as trailblazers in the United States and applied that into Canada in terms of bringing all the equipment on site and doing the uploading at these shows. No one had ever done that in Canada, in Canadian history, until we started to do that. But I also wanted to say, I mean, you mentioned how tough it is. I really applaud companies like High Tech Pharmaceuticals, who've not only sponsored Muscular Development's contest coverage, but they've also sponsored the live stream for the Olympia itself.
Yeah.
And so if you folks can't make it down to Orlando, you definitely want to check out musculardevelopment.com, because you guys have some great contest coverage. And it goes beyond just, you know, I see the forums you guys will have, and you guys will have the play-by-play that's going there. But it's also getting people like you, your opinion. Is this person sharp? Is this person, when they turned around, are they as strong as they were at the Arnolds? That's what you're paying for. And so I really think for complete contest coverage, you need to have the live stream, and you need to be on Muscular Development and checking out the interviews, the post wrap-ups. I mean, I understand you guys have Milos, the Mind Sarcev. He's just awesome. What can you say about Milos? I think you guys just are set to do a phenomenal job this year.
Thank you. And I just want to add one thing about the play-by-play. You know, forums, people say forums are a thing that's so 90s or so early 2000s. You know, one thing that's good about the forum, and then we do the play-by-play, is I started doing this a couple of years back, is we instantly upload images. It's not the professional. Yeah. We do have professional photographers. We have Jason Breeze, who you know very well, doing all the stage photos, but those take a couple hours to upload. They're huge files, as you know. But I get my iPhone 10 stuff up immediately. So it's almost like a play-by-play. You know, I encourage everyone to get it's almost like a paper. I shouldn't say it's like a pay-per-view. I encourage everyone to go to Olympia Productions The pay-per-view is only $59.95. It gets you access to everything. It's been going already with the Amateur Olympia. They've been streaming that. They're going to have backstage interviews. You have pretty much full access to every event on their pay-per-view. I want people to support it because I know Jake Wood is not making money on this show. I know there's no way, because he didn't take down the athletes' prize money, nothing. Kept it all the same. He's still paying for all their expenses. This is a very expensive event to put on, and they're only able to sell, I think, half capacity for the seating. So, guys, if you love the sport and you want to show some love for Jake Wood, the guy who bought the Olympia, and he's a fan. He's very, very passionate, very supportive of all the athletes. He could have canceled this show. Nobody would have blamed him. Nobody would have been angry because it's COVID and the economy, and he had every excuse in the world to just shut it down and say, sorry guys, no Olympia this year. We'll see you next year. But he didn't do that. So please get the pay-per-view, guys. OlympiaProductions.com. Yeah.
And Dan Solomon obviously has been so instrumental to taking it to the next level on the sponsorship level, on the all of the kind of a campaign throughout the year versus what we usually saw, which was in the back half of the year. We started to get a bit of hype around August, July, around that in terms of. But Dan's really been trailblazing that hype and that promotion all year round and making it a festival that we know it can be. And for in 1 month to turn the whole show around, move to the other side of the country, just a phenomenal. Anyway, listen, I wanted to thank you personally, Ron, on behalf of Muscular Development here for you and for Muscle Insider for taking time to talk to the Muscle Insider fans. We always try to do some flavor for Canada here, but we look to Muscular Development to be the leading contest coverage provider for all the things that are happening in the United States. And you're just totally instrumental to doing that. And so thank you very much for taking time to talk to our fans tonight.
You're welcome. And, I really missed going to Toronto this year. I was very, very bummed that the show, the Toronto Pros, canceled because Ron Haché and his team, they do such a good job. And, you're a big part of that show. And, man, I had never been to Toronto until I started with this job in 2017. What a beautiful city. And you guys are so polite. The city's so clean. It's a joy to go up there. And I was upset I didn't get to go to Toronto this year. God willing, 2021.
Yeah, there's going to be another Vancouver Pro Show next year is on, and then they also have what's called the Vancouver Island Showdown as a pro show, and that's going to be in Victoria, so you can go into BC, and that's 2 weeks before the Vancouver Pro. They've got women's physique and women's bodybuilding, so this is the first time we've had 2 pro shows in British Columbia this year for Canada. So kind of cool. Gives the amateurs something to see, and it helps invigorate the sport over here in Canada, which we definitely will be there. So this is it. Scott Welch, Muscle Insider, Ron Harris, Muscular Development. Thanks very much for checking out our live stream, and you want to check out all the news at muscleinsider.com and musculardevelopment.com.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, guys.